time for the final word in sports all across the state. You're listening to Sports Talk with your hosts, Bill Kornbluth, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes. You've been waiting all day, so join the show now by calling 800-956-7266.
Terrific end to our season here in Little John. Couldn't be more proud of our guys. 11 ACC wins and then 15 home wins, 15-1 at home this year. Super happy for our seniors and for us to win our last game here. That was a lot of fun for us.
We do some stuff that just is mind-boggling, and you guys watch a game just like me. And there's times that I'm on the sideline and I'm helpless with our inability to just make a simple pass. Somehow, some way, we figured out a way to win our 7th conference game.
The first key is we got to find a way to relax, be loose, and just play baseball, and just understand that it's baseball. Not try to do too much. That's a big key.
This weekend is the greatest rivalry in college baseball. I think the best series in college baseball. So I want to make sure I'm on record as saying I think this is number one. I respect how important it is to everybody. So, as I said, we're going to do everything we can to give ourselves a chance to win.
Hey, good evening,
Good evening, everybody. Welcome into Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network, here on a Thursday night, heading into a busy weekend of sports here in the Palmetto State, but a busy night here on Sports Talk as we look back at basketball from last night. USC and Clemson, both winners at home in very tight affairs. Gamecocks in overtime after blowing a big lead. And, of course, Clemson pulling away late against Florida State yesterday. Monumental win for the Clemson basketball program. 11 ACC regular season wins. That's an all-time high. 15 home victories for the Tigers. That's not an all-time high, but it's one of their best home seasons ever. And Clemson keeps itself in position if they can win on Saturday against Syracuse. Depending on what else happens around the league, they'll have a chance to claim one of those top 4 spots and get a double bye in the ACC tournament next week up in Brooklyn, and that would be certainly huge for them. We have got a big show for you tonight. Mike Morgan will be here at the bottom of the hour for Morgan on the Move. And we're going to hear from USC baseball coach Mark Kingston, his first series with Clemson coming up beginning tomorrow night here in Columbia. As you heard his comment at the opening there, he gets it. He understands the importance of the series.
Has all the talking points down, doesn't he?
I think he does. I think he is fully indoctrinated into what the series means to the people of Gamecock land, and he knows that the Clemson people feel the same way about it. So we're looking forward to that. We'll have the money coach with us as well at 7:30. Fran Halloran, looking forward to hearing what he's got for us tonight. At 7:45, College of Charleston basketball coach Earl Grant joining us here on Sports Talk. What a year they have had down in Charleston. The Cougars, the regular season champions of the CAA, hosting the CAA tournament, which begins this weekend, and it spills over into next week with the semifinals on Monday, championship game on Tuesday at the North Charleston Coliseum. And so we have got a full boatload of things. And, of course, we'll hear from Frank Martin and Brad Brownell.
I tell you what, last night at CLA, it was very much a select all delete story for a lot of the paper guys who felt like they had their stories written by the end of yesterday's game, or at least by the end of regulation. They had a 60-45 lead at USC with 9.5 to play. And then the lead just evaporated. There was 3 consecutive possessions with turnovers committed by Hassani Gravett. Frank Booker had a bit of a mental lapse near the LSU bench. There was no call involved at the end of regulation to set up the final play for LSU. But South Carolina jumps out to an 11-2 run in the overtime. Grav had a big part of that. He scored 6 of his points in that part of the game, and also didn't have any, despite the fact he didn't have any points in regulation, he had all 6 in the overtime for them. So it was a monumental night for both Frank Booker and Wesley Myers, shining on senior night, the 2 one-year graduate transfer seniors. A very peculiar thing for Frank Martin, but as we've said, if this team can defend and if this team can get big contributions from its sharpshooting guys, they'll have a chance to win. The one thing they didn't have last night was Chris Silva, who really in 28 minutes made very little impact, just 5 rebounds, 8 points. Frank Martin said after the game that it was the worst practice in the history of mankind, what I've now termed as the David Beatty treatment, because he said the same thing of the freshman point guard earlier in the season. But, in my mind, South Carolina's going to need Chris Silva if they want to make a run in St. Louis, and they need him to play in concert with the two guys who shined for the Gamecocks last night.
Up at Clemson, it was a case of the guards once again getting it done for the Tigers, especially Marquise Reed late. He scored 22 points on the night. He scored 9 of the Tigers' final 17, hit his free throws down the stretch, hit a couple of big outside jumpers as well to spark the run. Plus, the Tigers finished up very strong defensively. They put together a good run over the last 5 or 6 minutes to pull away from Florida State and get that win. Balanced scoring for the Tigers. Thomas had a good game. DeVoe had a good game scoring. And I tell you what, I think the next star at Clemson, as he is gradually coming along, is Amir Sims.
He's good.
I love his game. I think he gets better by the outing as he gets more experience. He didn't score a bunch last night. He only had 3 points and he had 3 rebounds in 22 minutes. He had an assist, couple of blocks. The one shot he made was a 3-pointer. So he is that lengthy forward who can stand outside and shoot the 3, but can also go inside for you. But this Clemson team moving forward will go as far as the 3 guards will take it. And again, I think it's a very good comparison now, especially the way Mark Donnell has come on and given them a bit of an outside threat as a big.
Mm-hmm.
It really reminds me of South Carolina of 97, 98, when the Gamecocks had the 3 guards. Any of the 3 could score outside, inside, but primarily you had a point guard who would penetrate and would dish it out to B.J. Mackey, Larry Davis. Now you've got the same thing here with Shelton Mitchell. When he is on the court and running things, they just seem to be so much more in sync. And his ability to find one of those other guards in their sweet spot on the floor makes this Clemson offense run. And now you got Donnell emerging as a good outside shooter. And he's sort of like that big guy corresponding with Ryan Stack at South Carolina back in that time in the 90s. And it makes Clemson even more difficult to score. And that opens up things for Thomas on the inside. And Thomas had a good night last night with 11 points and 8 rebounds. Brad Brownell said afterwards, and this was a moment of complete and total honesty that nobody tried to bring out of him. He just put it out there for himself in talking about his team and the success of this year with 11 ACC wins and 15 home wins and now 22 wins overall. And he said the loss of Dante Grantham was huge, of course. And he said if that hadn't happened, he said if Grantham were healthy and playing, that this team would have – basically he was saying this team would have a chance to make a Final Four run. Mm-hmm. Not saying that they can't with what they have, but he believes that Grantham made them elite,
right?
Because of his versatility and the things they could do and revolve around him. They don't have him. They've got to work without him. And again, if these guards are on in any of the NCAA tournament games they're going to be in, and Joe Lunardi today – with his new bracket, has the Tigers as a 5 seed playing Loyola Chicago in Boise.
Mm-hmm. I don't like that. I've already priced the trips to Boise. It's not in our price range.
So, but I don't know anything about Loyola Chicago at this point. We'll find out more later on if it comes to that. But if they're on their game, they've got a chance to beat some teams and get into that second weekend.
The thing I don't like is that he doesn't like to play Donnell and Thomas together. I think that those two together with the 3 guards make them a very, very big threat. He just doesn't like the way it makes them look defensively. He likes using Skara more defensively. And I hope you've noticed just the kind of intensity that Skara brings defensively because, again, he's still very offensively limited. But I like Donnell's ability to stretch the floor with the ability to hit the 3-point shot. I would still like them to see more of Thomas inside and more of a focus on that because it seems like there are times where he can dominate his big man that's guarding him, and he can be a real big source inside for some easy points. But, they love to live by the 3, and when you do that, sometimes you're going to have good nights, sometimes you're going to have off nights.
Absolutely. 800-956-7266, our phone number here on Sports Talk. We talk basketball. We look ahead to baseball and some football, too. Back in a moment.
This is the place to talk Tigers, Gamecocks, and more. Sports talk across the state on the South Carolina Radio Network.
Okay, we're back at Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. 800-956-7266 is our phone number. Email talkback at sportstalksc.com and on Twitter at SportsTalkSC. That's how you can reach us. Lines are open if you want to join in. Love to hear from you. look ahead to the baseball series coming up this weekend, USC and Clemson.
I'm very excited about that.
In Columbia, with the game tomorrow night at 7 o'clock, and then the game in Greenville at Fluor Field, the Reedy River rivalry. That'll be at 3 o'clock, and then the game up at Clemson on Sunday to wrap up the series. The game there at Clemson has a 2 o'clock first pitch. Clemson going for a 4th straight series win. The Gamecocks won 4 series in a row prior to this current winning streak for Clemson, so it's gone back and forth. And you know, the pitching should be, at least on Friday night, it should be very good based on the last outings of the 2 starters. And then on Saturday, the same. Sunday, USC is not ready to name a Sunday starter. Clemson going with its regular starting rotation that has gone with so far this season. So they're not leaving anything to question. Hennessy on Friday, Brooks Crawford on Saturday, Higginbotham on Sunday, Hill for USC tomorrow, Cody Morris on Saturday, and to be determined for the Gamecocks on Sunday. We'll hear from Mark Kingston coming up. We, of course, heard from Monty Lee last night. So should be a good weather weekend as far as I know. I think the rain that we got today is clearing out, and we should be cool from that standpoint. The temperature should be
a little cooler,
but maybe very comfortable, not freezing or anything like that, and not overbearing from a heat standpoint. And, you know, I think that listening to Mark Kingston, his first go-around in this series, as we said, I think he fully understands what it means to the Gamecock fans. Monty Lee, of course, firmly entrenched as a South Carolinian, as a former USC assistant, now as Clemson's head coach. He has seen it from both sides. He's seen it from the good side and the bad side. And this is a series that, you know, both teams – both programs, they do take a lot of pride in.
Right.
And it could get a little snippy between the two. It could be very physical on the field around the bases, sliding hard into second and third and crashes in home plate, things of that nature. People will be on edge. Nerves can be very short here. The umpires will certainly be under pressure to call a good game. So it has all the elements of the best of college baseball.
And I mean, you even get the sense from talking to LT Tolbert when he was up there today speaking at the media day. I have no friends on that side, he said. So it's a very much something that these players take to heart, the coaches take to heart. And when you're in a sport like baseball, when you get a lot of in-state prospects, I'd like to think that outside of football, no one really draws from the in-state plot of players more than the baseball teams do for both South Carolina and Clemson, just because you're competing for a lot of the same players there. And I think that so much of the attention on this series really goes to not just a pride point, but also a recruiting point. I think Mark Kingston has heard all the reverberations from the fan base that have basically said that Clemson has owned this series for the last 4 years and really has owned the day since Chad Holbrook was there. And obviously after Ray Tanner's departure, has really kind of been the it program in the state outside of the 1 year Coastal Carolina won the national championship. It's something that is very, very interesting to see the dynamic between these two. And in my opinion, this is the second biggest of the South Carolina Clemson gatherings, between football being first, obviously, and this is the second one, even above the basketball one, because you don't see the kind of intensity in the basketball series that you'll see this weekend in the 3 different venues.
I think you're right about that. I think part of the problem with basketball is right now it's being played in December when the schools are on break. Attention is more on the upcoming bowl games, or in the case of Clemson, the playoff game, things of that nature. The basketball game sort of gets lost. And it's also understood in basketball that a win or a loss is not going to break your season. It's a non-conference thing, and you got many more basketball games to play. Now, I know in baseball it's not going to make or break your season either.
Well, I don't like how early it is, though.
Well, they have to do it now because of their league seasons coming up. Yeah. And see, they used to play this thing later in the year, and they would play them on
midweeks.
At one point, they did them over 4 different Wednesdays,
right? Which
really was not good. It did not build up the intensity. I mean, the individual games had their intensity, but you're going to find as you follow this thing this weekend, as you go from Columbia to Greenville to Clemson.
Oh, it's a big show.
That it just kind of builds and snowballs as it goes along. If the games are good and tight, and let's hope for some controversy. Let's hope for some bang plays and some questionable things to give us something to talk about. That's what makes baseball great.
Well, I think the one thing I don't want to see, and this is going to sound political, I want to see them playing for a series win on Sunday. Basically, I think it serves the rivalry well to have at least one victory aside going into Sunday. That's not to try and say I'm trying to play it down the middle, but again, it just fuels the rivalry.
It's seldom swept.
Yes,
it generally is 2-1.
Yeah.
And it generally comes down to the Sunday game,
right?
And so it's not. I don't think you can look for either team to sweep the other.
Saturday is the one I'm really looking forward to, just to see the two different fan bases converging, at least en masse in the same building.
The place is really just split.
Right,
have to stay. It's much like the Army-Navy game. Half the stadium is one color, the other half is the other color. There's a reaction to every pitch, good or bad, and it makes for a lot of fun.
It's like Omaha.
No, it's not like Omaha, because Omaha, you got a lot of neutral observers.
Right.
This is, you're all.
I'm just saying that it has that intensity, though. I'm saying.
Oh yeah, but it's you're either a Gamecock or you're a Tiger,
or you're like us,
or you're like us. Let's hope not. To the phones, 800-956-7266. Some call him Triple T for trash talking Tiger. I just know him as the angry black man.
How you doing, man?
Oliver, where you been?
Just taking it easy.
Yeah, good to hear from you.
I'm calling because I'm listening to some of these idiot Clemson fans.
Okay.
First of all, excuse me for my bad English. There ain't no quarterback controversy at Clemson. If Dabo listened to these idiot Clemson fans, he can destroy this football program. Kelly Bryant is the starting quarterback. Boom. He doesn't. I'm saying this. He went 12-1 during the season. He lost the game in the playoffs. That's it. What else you expect? I'm saying this. Hunter Johnson, Trevor Lawrence, they should be fighting for the number 2 spot.
You did see his muscles, though, right, Triple T? You see the muscles on Trevor Lawrence and that long flowing hair?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Listen to me. Same thing going to happen, when it was Epley and Homer Jordan when he was a sophomore. I'm saying Danny Ford said Homer Jordan is my quarterback. Everybody got angry. I'm saying this, and he went 6-5 his sophomore year, and he won the national championship. So I'm saying this. So what I'm saying to you, Kelly Bryant is the quarterback, and if Dabo needs to say that to Kelly, it's your job. Those other 2 guys, I'm saying, regardless if he struggles, you take him out. I'm saying this. You go 12-2. I'm saying, and you lost in the playoff for the national championship.
Well, let me settle your nerves. Let me settle your nerves.
Go ahead.
Kelly Bryant is the starting quarterback.
No. I understand this,
and everybody knows that. Now you're going to always have people who love the backup quarterback. There's going to be a faction of Gamecock fans who want to see DeCarrion Joyner in there as soon as possible for whatever reason in South Carolina, because they're the next best thing. They're the 5-star recruits generated by the recruiting people, and they may be good in their time, but Kelly Bryant is the man at Clemson. There's no question about it. And as long as he doesn't falter, he's going to keep the job.
I want them to shut up and stop, supporting the football team. I'm saying this. Hey, like I said, if Dabo was to buy into that, he could destroy the football program. I know a lot of them kids on the football team.
Yeah, he's not. Listen, Dabo's not listening to the fans when it comes to decision on personnel. The best player who's moving the team at quarterback and who is scoring is going to be the starter. We'll be right back. We continue with Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network on a Thursday night from downtown Columbia. For those of you joining us here on Sports Talk, switching over to us from elsewhere, smart move on your part. Good to have you with us as you're heading home tonight in the rain and the gloom of this Thursday. It will be nicer tomorrow. And, of course, a busy weekend of sports is coming up with basketball, baseball, and the continuation of spring football. Let's talk some basketball right now. Another edition of the award-winning Morgan on the Move, voted by the members of this staff as the #1 show at this time of the night on a Thursday on Sports Talk.
I abstained courteously.
Yeah, so it was 2-0 with one abstention in voting for that. Mike Morgan here with us on Sports Talk, and of course, Mike, brought to you by our good friends at Founders Federal Credit Union. Their mortgage team is more equipped than ever to help you with the mortgage process. Visit foundersfcu.com/mortgage. And by BP Skinner Clothiers, you can just look at Mike on television and see what BP Skinner Clothiers can do. If they can make Mike look good, they can make anybody look good. Very best in suits, shirts, pants, shoes, and more are available to you right here in the capital city in the Vista. Check them out online at bpskinnerclothiers.com. Did you take that as an insult or as a compliment?
No, I couldn't have said it any better. I say it all the time.
Yeah.
You know, there were two versions of me in my life. It was BBP and ABP. Before, actually, I guess it would be
you're
BBS
right.
before Brent Skinner and ABS after Brent Skinner. And I look back at what I was wearing before Brent Skinner, and quite frankly, I'm embarrassed.
Yeah, jeans with holes in them just doesn't cut it on television anymore.
Terrible. Ties from the I don't know, the Archie Bunker collection. Just a bad look overall. I needed help, and I found a man that could help me make it into a new realm of fashion and style.
Well, before we get to the SEC, ACC stuff, Sean Miller today went public for the first time, and he refuted the ESPN story. 247 Sports had a story earlier this week kind of shooting holes in that story as well. I don't know. I mean, the truth is either on one side or the other. This is a very big case involving this guy's coaching future with the accusations leveled against him. Your thoughts on what's happening out there?
I think that at bare minimum, the truth might not be on one side or the other, but it might be all over the place, and some falsehoods might be all over the place. And so now it's, you know, when you accuse a guy of something as grand as this, and then when you think about it in the history of cheating and violations in recruiting, this would rank right up there, top 10 all time, I'd have to say. So now, if you miss the mark on that, now you've given Sean Miller some ammunition of his own. Well, maybe if he did do some wrongdoing, but he did not offer anybody $100,000, maybe he never spoke to Ayton directly. Maybe the number was $10,000. I truly don't know. But I do know that story has been modified a couple of times since it initially got out. Look, Mark Schlabach is a guy I know. He's based in Atlanta. He is a very good reporter. And I think, you know, you've been in the business, Phil, over the years of breaking news, and you know what that's like. You want to be first, but you want to be accurate. And every now and then, no matter how good of a reporter you are, you're going to miss one. And it's a really bad, you know what, burger that you have to take a bite out of. So I don't know if that's going to be the case here, or in fact, the reporting will be vindicated and somebody will have some more evidence that will be culpable for Sean Miller. I think everybody's just kind of guessing right now.
Mike, is the NCAA model broken? And if so, how do you fix it?
Oh, geez. How much time do we have in this segment? Look, I think the NCAA model per se has been broken for a while, and none of us are naive to think this is just a basketball thing.
No.
If there were wiretaps on college football recruiting, my goodness, it's scary to think how many pages of athletes, of high school football players getting quote unquote loans and payments and benefits. We wouldn't have enough time to last the entire summer. It'd be a great talk show fodder. But I think it's been broken, and I respect both sides of the argument. Here's why I have a problem. When people try to come with their side of the argument that athletes should be paid, but then they over-exaggerate the argument to make their case. And the moment you do that, you lose credibility for me, okay? When you start saying they're exploited and when you start saying they don't have enough money to take their girlfriend to the movies. I worked with a guy this year, I won't say which one, who played at a prominent program. And he would tell the story how when those players, in addition to getting everything paid for, meals, room and board, gear, etc., forget about the education, which apparently nobody seems to value anymore when it comes to athletics, they would take their Pell Grant money, which is thousands of dollars of free money. This is before we get cost of attendance, which is also thousands of dollars of free money. And the first thing they would do is cash those checks and play dice and gamble it away, and then ask people for more money. So it's at some point we have to be honest about the discussion. We have to be honest about what these players are truly getting now, and what is fair compensation. Where does Title IX fit in? Are we going to just take the Power Five, 65 schools or so, have them operate under a separate set of financial guidelines because they have a huge disparity in financial income? I think all those things have to be upfront and honest in order to have a true debate.
You're exactly right. And, the debate will go on for who knows how long, because we never can seem to get the people together in a consensus setting to come up with the way to solve these problems. And a lot of that is just human nature, because people are always going to cheat in some form or fashion, either in the position of trying to get a recruit, or the recruit himself or the people around him are going to be wanting something. And I'm not saying all of them, of course, but I'm saying there's a select few that put themselves in that position.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point, because this is the other dishonest argument. Well, if they got paid, then there'd be no reason to cheat. Okay, if we started paying these kids quote unquote fair market value, do you think they're all going to get $100,000? So in other words, if the story of DeAndre Ayton is true, and he actually was offered $100,000, and we know that kind of number's been thrown around before. If that's the case, if somehow these kids all of a sudden became true salaried employees, it's not going to be $100,000. So a kid is going to, I knew kids when I was growing up, guys, that came from a lot of money that still stole. They went to stores and they stole. So it's not going to stop corruption altogether. That's the other dishonest argument that I always hear. And it's, again, when you come at it from that angle, which many of the people are doing right now, then you lose all credibility and you lose focus on trying to find a true resolution.
Absolutely. All right, very quickly to the SEC, last Saturday of the regular season, and regular season championship up for grabs. USC can have a say in that, playing in Auburn, and the Gamecocks trying to get out of the first four of the tournament, and they've got a chance to do that.
They do. I'll be watching that game because that leads up to my game, which will be Tennessee fighting for its first SEC championship or share of in 10 years, which, again, I think I've lauded Rick Barnes a number of times on this show over the years, so that would be just an exclamation point of what I've already thought of him as a coach. But in terms of South Carolina, at this point, you've got nothing to lose. Go ahead and play the role of the spoiler, pick up some positive momentum, see what some of the guys that will be coming back next year can do. Because I really think it is going to be a vastly improved roster next year. And I think when you give Frank veteran players, particularly veteran guards, you see what he's done over the years, not just at Carolina, but also Kansas State.
Hey, take care of that voice, and we'll talk to you next week.
Okay, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you, Mike Morgan, for soldiering on there, though. You can tell he's not. He's probably about 75%.
He didn't sound sick. Come on.
75% of Mike Morgan behind the mic is better than 100% of some other people that I hear over these airwaves. Not these airwaves, but just the airwaves.
Really?
Not really these airwaves.
That's
be right back.
Gold.
The guys are always checking email. Send your comments or questions to talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, more of Sports Talk from Columbia's Main Street.
Thanks again to Mike Morgan for being with us here on Sports Talk on South Carolina Radio Network. Some news out of upstate today as they not only are letting go of their, I guess he was the interim basketball coach, but the AD is out as well.
The news coming out was first reported by Jeff Goodman of ESPN and then obviously followed up on by the outlets here. Julio Freire, who was basically hired in July to try and pilot the ship differently for the Spartans heading into their Big South. Basically, they're joining the Big South coming up here. Basically, has been let go after they replaced him, and they also replaced the legendary longtime coach Eddie Payne in October with Kyle Perry, and both those guys are gone. The chancellor, Brendan Kelly, in a statement said, writing you today to inform you of my decision to make a change at USC Upstate Athletics. You heard our announcement about moving to the Big South. Prior to the transition and after a great deal of review, our current operations in athletics, we're making the changes to the athletics director and head men's basketball coach positions within USC Upstate Athletics. We appreciate the efforts of both men in their respective roles. That has to be a surprise, no?
I guess. I really haven't followed it all that closely. When Eddie Payne suddenly retired before the season, they had to move quickly, and they promoted from within, did not have a good season at all.
No.
And so I guess moving into their new league and trying to move in a different direction is just going to.
But how does the AD get let go, like, after not even a year?
Yeah, I don't know. Could be some things. Who knows? Who knows what happens, what's happening behind closed doors internally and things of that nature. So, all right. Last night up at Clemson, the Tigers took care of their business, closing out their home slate, 15-1 at Little John Coliseum. And they pick up their 11th ACC win. That's the most ever for the Tigers in regular season play in their history in the ACC. So, people thought Brad Brownell was walking the slippery slope going into this season, and maybe he was. But you got to give Dan Radakovich credit for hanging in there with him and giving him a chance. This is where fans should take a lesson, is that, and I've said this repeatedly over the years, a veteran coach who's been in his spot for years, things don't go well a particular year or two, give him a chance to fix it. Tennessee should have given Philip Fulmer a chance to fix his situation. They might not have been in the football wasteland they've been in all these many years since they fired him, and many other examples of veteran coaches who did great. Then it slipped a little bit. You fire him. And then, 2 or 3 coaches later, you get it right. Now, Brad hasn't been great. They've only had one NCAA tournament appearance in his time there, some NIT appearances. Had an NIT appearance last year, but went out in the first round. But Dan Radakovich stuck with him. He gave him the vote of confidence in that, extended his contract in terms of length. I don't know if they gave him any more money, but a little bit of a vote of confidence. And now he's gone out. And he has put together one of the best seasons in Clemson basketball history to this point, and a good feeling that they can do some damage in the NCAA tournament. Here's what he had to say after the Tigers picked up that win last night over Florida State in front of the home fans.
Terrific end to our season here in Little John. Couldn't be more proud of our guys, and 11 ACC wins and then 15 home wins, 15-1 at home this year. Super happy for our seniors and for us to win our last game here. That was a lot of fun for us. Very challenging game. I thought Florida State was really ready to play. High energy team that came in here really locked in. I thought our guys again played well, made big timely shots down the stretch, did a better job taking care of the ball, rebounded it well against a big, strong, athletic team. And especially in the last 10 minutes of the game, I thought we played good basketball. So really just an excellent way to end what has been a terrific year here in Little John.
How happy are you for a guy like Gabe, who he's been here through all those tough years?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, really happy. You're just always happy for guys that develop through your program. You know, Gabe was he was a very good high school player. Probably wasn't, you know, kind of the typical guy that we get. That's a little bit under the radar, a little under recruited, not recruited by a lot of other schools in our league, and came in here. We think a talented guy that just needed to refine some things, and he's done that. And he's a hard worker. He's a bright guy, and just to watch him develop, you know, that's what you want out of your players and for your players. And to see him have the kind of senior season he's had is, you know, he's played great. I mean, he's had a great ACC season, and there's no question we don't come close to doing what we've done if he doesn't elevate his play, and he's elevated it because we've had to without Dante.
I think days after Dante was lost, you find that stuff will still be really good. Is that what makes it really special to you, the obstacle?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I just think it's with Dante Grantham, like we're special. Like we're special. We could be playing for big, big, big things. Without him, I'm not sure where we are. This is still a special team, but we're not as talented as some of the teams we play. We play better basketball sometimes, and we play together sometimes better than our opponents. And we try to do the things that good teams do to win, and we sacrifice, and we practice hard, and we prepare hard. And so when you see young people that are giving so much and being so selfless and sacrificing like they are, to have them have this kind of success is what you want to see. And that makes you really proud as a coach to come to work every day and coach for these kinds of guys. And, you know, then the obstacles that get thrown in are challenges, but, you know, I still felt like our team could be good. And these guys have continued to battle, and we've made a couple of adjustments, and they believe, and we're still working at it. So hopefully we still have a few more big-time wins ahead of us.
I give Brad credit, though I do quibble sometimes with some of his in-game philosophies and in-game decision-making. I think there are some times where he still coaches at times where he's at, you know, his previous stops and not necessarily in the ACC. So in that regard, I think he still has a lot to learn from that perspective. But you have to give him credit for not only believing in this group, but also molding this group into what could be a very dangerous team come next week and the following.
I agree. I think Clemson could be a very tough out, no matter who plays them in the ACC tournament. I mean, the only team in the league where they had a big-time problem was Virginia up there, and everybody has trouble with Virginia.
That's not something that is just exclusive to them.
You know, they went with North Carolina. They did lose to Duke, but without Shelton Mitchell. They lost to Florida State down there, but again, Mitchell got hurt late in that ball game. They've been in there with everybody that they've lost to. They lost to NC State up there on a missed free throw by Gabe DeVoe in the final seconds.
Virginia Tech game without Mitchell again as well. That was one that I think you could also put in the same category as the Florida State one as well.
Okay. All right, let me give you some recruiting before we hit the top of the hour. I tell you what, I think I got time to give you this before we hit the top of the hour because it's not heavily loaded stuff tonight. I'm just tweeting out a little note that just ran across, and that is that USC offered running back Darius Gibson of North Augusta for a preferred walk-on spot. He rushed for 3,200 yards and 29 touchdowns the last two seasons, and he signed, actually kind of had a little signing ceremony at their school today for some of the athletes, and he was one of those involved with that and tweeted out that he's going to South Carolina. Clemson offered defensive end Lloyd Summerall of Auburndale, Florida. 2020 linebacker Micaiah Ross, Heflin, Alabama, plans to visit Clemson Saturday. First Baptist running back Michael Dukes offered by East Carolina. Clemson and USC target defensive back Jamie Robinson of Cordele, Georgia, offered by Florida. Place kicker Ryan Fitzgerald of Moultrie, Georgia, will be at USC Saturday. Quarterback Davis Bevel of Greenville was offered by Dartmouth and Toledo. USC target quarterback Ryan Helinski was offered by Arizona. And Ohio State offered Emerald tight end Luke Deal. He continues to pick up the big offers. Top of the hour, we'll be back.